Well, hello, and welcome to Wednesday Night Recap. This is our last time together with Gary Thomas's series on Sacred Pathways, and it's been great. It's been a great adventure. And tonight was the last session we looked at, where he groups them in threes: the Caregiver, the Activist, and the Enthusiast. And then I showed the summary, which is part 5. We got it all done in 5 weeks. And I guess I don't always take things in order. It might be my ADHD, but I want to talk about the summary.
Okay.
Rather than focusing any of the other three. Right. But the summary was really good.
It was.
In that there's unity in diversity. Mm-hmm. And those aren't Gary's words, those are mine. You know, I mean, who would enjoy a garden that's only one kind of flower? And who would enjoy a garden that's just one kind of vegetable? You know, we like diversity. We like a change. And so with these 9 different pathways to connect to God, what we need to do is find which one we are, how God has made us, and run with it. Really maximize it and just enjoy the presence of God. Right. I thoroughly enjoyed this series.
Right, I did too.
You know,
I think that one of the things he pointed out that we tend to do is just like he's saying, there's not just one way, and we felt, you felt guilty for not living up to expectations before in other forms of it, but also to be accepting of others. I mean, you can think, because you're a naturalist, I'm an enthusiast. You can think that's the way.
That's the only way.
And put that on somebody else, and all of a sudden you're doing that same thing. You're putting that guilt on them because they're not living up to your standard. What did he talk about? Traditionalist and enthusiast kind of being the ends of the spectrum. But again, what's important is you're connecting with God in the way that you're doing it and the way that God created you to do it.
Yeah. And I think all of us have been taught that the ascetic way is the only way to do it. That's, total solitude, solitary confinement, on your knees, no distractions, an hour to 3 hour focus on God alone. Sure, And if you don't do that, you're not spiritual. And man, this series has been liberating. I was leaning towards this. I mean, I've always known that I enjoy God most when I'm out running through the White Clay Creek State Park, or just outside in general. I mean, I could be walking a beach in the Caribbean and enjoying the beauty of what I'm looking at, as well as the presence of God. But still, over the years, we've all been taught that it's got to be this, again, put the blinders on and only look directly at God. I feel really free.
Right.
And I just hope that everyone that's been attending also feels a new freedom to learn this and then not maximize it. I'm going to use that word again. To not maximize using how you've been built to enjoy the presence of God would be a real shame.
It would be, yeah.
You've got to enjoy this.
Right.
Again, now going backwards to the Caregiver, some people really feel close to God, meeting very real physical needs of other people.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, someone, this week we visited, just yesterday, 3 pastors, Pastor Brandon, Pastor Hans, and I, we visited Pastor Bert and Dolores at their convalescent home that they're in over in New Jersey. And it was great. It was a good time of fellowship. It was good to see those two together finally, instead of Dolores living in her home and Pastor Bert being there. So some people, though, they live for that.
Right.
They really feel close to God when they're spending quality time with the shut-in. And then the activist, again, some people love, going out and conquering.
Right.
And what I like that Gary brought up, and I'm just kind of recapping for everybody who wasn't there, is that he mentioned evangelism is activism. You're changing people's hearts one by one. Intercession and prayer, tearing down the strongholds of the enemy. That's activism.
Absolutely.
And then you're the enthusiast. You can, if you're ready, you can talk about that. You're the enthusiast.
With the, what were you just speaking about? I'm sorry.
The activist.
Activist was that it's not an anger.
No.
Maybe it's a righteous anger, maybe to some extent, and that can be done. That doesn't have to even be extroverted. That can be right in your prayer room or wherever you find. You could be fighting battles just like that. Enthusiastic. I was saying I started walking. You're rubbing off on me and the naturalist, but I love to be outside as well. But I combine mine with music. And I'm telling you, sometimes I can be listening to worship music and I just feel like running. I may not physically be able to, but I just get overwhelmed with the presence of God. And I know that some people, that would be a distraction to them. But that's where it's okay, But yeah, he really, the assessment that we took and his speaking about it, he really nailed it on the head for me, and I'm sure for you as well. And you can see what that is in you.
And I can bet there's some people who would go through the series and just, I don't know. It's not, there are biblical pieces to it, but it's what we would call a theological construct. Right. In other words, it does work. It's not necessarily 100% biblical, but there's enough examples in Scripture that show us how different people are energized in their walk with God. Yeah. And so there's 9 different pathways Gary's put this together. Gary Thomas has put this together. It's his unique thought and take on it. I love it. I just love it.
I love it.
So anyways, next week we're starting a brand new series by Louis Giglio. And I don't know, Pastor Brandon's going to facilitate that. Did you want to just talk about it?
Yeah, it's called Don't Let the Enemy Have a Seat at Your Table. We read in Psalm 23 that David says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. It's not even as if God takes us out of the situation. Right there in the midst of all of the chaos and all of the things that we could have, he prepares a table, and it's up to us. We can commune with God at the table, but to not allow other voices to get into that table and give the enemy a seat. And it's all about the mind. It's going to be a great series. It's a 6-week series. And just breaking down each section of it. It's Psalm 23, but not always in the way that you've heard it before. So I think it's going to be a good series.
Good. And so you'll add a trailer to this.
Yep. Yeah. So you can
get a little feel for it.
Yep.
So other than that, time to say goodbye.
Time to say goodbye.
All right. Hey, hope to see you Sunday. It's Father's Day, and I've got I think a real fun message for Father's Day. Hope you'll be with us. And again, we'll see you next Wednesday.
This 9-word title, Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table, that message came to me at a very difficult time in my life and changed the narrative, changed my focus. God has prepared this table before me in the presence of my enemies, but I have responsibility for that table. And through Christ, through His grace, through His power, I have the ability to manage whose voices are at that table. You and I were created by God, and we were created for God. What that means is every one of us was created innately to be led, and to be led by the God who made us. So if we choose not to let God lead us, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be led. It just means that we're going to let something else have the influence, the leadership, the determining voice in our lives. And so I know the message has power because I've experienced that power. And I'm honored to be able to step into your world and to maybe be a voice for God into your story, that same power can set you free.